Good evening. This is Nagesh, retired Additional Secretary and Team IIS Network. Today we are doing a topic on environment, General Studies 3 environment. As I told you, General Studies 3 basically consists of the following units: economy, agriculture, science, technology, environment, internal security, disaster management. See, disaster management, as I've seen papers of the previous years, there's a maximum of just one question every year. That is right. If you see the pattern from 2016 onwards, a single question on disaster management. So we discuss the question. The result of a chemical disaster has effects through generations of populations which are irreparable and unimaginable. The result of a chemical disaster has effects through generations of populations which are irreparable and unimaginable. Substantiate with the response of the stakeholders, industry, public, and government. So the question is very specific. What the examiner wants to know from you is a brief introduction, and you substantiate your answer with the response of the three stakeholders who are involved in any disaster management plan: the industry, the public, and the government. Let's start with an introduction. There is non-availability of accident investigation data in the West. So why do we require accident investigation data as in the West? So this will be, if we have an accident investigation data, we can learn from the past lessons and investigate the root cause of accidents. So this is one feature which is missing in the Indian context. We do not have availability of accident investigation data. Now, the nodal ministry is the Ministry of Environment and Forests, while the National Disaster Management Authority issues guidelines for disasters. Guidelines for disaster management to various departments, state authorities. Now, as per the NDMA, we have got district management disaster plans also. Like the district also is involved in district disaster management plan. Now, if you see the response of the government, since the Bhopal tragedy, the response of the government has been from reactive to proactive. So this is a must in the introduction. In the introduction, you highlight the fact that the chemical disaster or whatever type of disaster, we do not have availability of accident investigation data. Now the West has compiled data. Unless we compile data in a proper form, we cannot learn from previous mistakes and we cannot plan for the future. Then we spoke of the MOEF, role of MOEF and the National Disaster Management Authority. And we also said how, since the Bhopal gas tragedy, the response of the government has been from reactive to proactive. With this brief introduction, let us go to the response of the three, like what shall I say, the three stakeholders. Now the examiner has asked for response of the stakeholders: industry, public, and government. First, we take the response of industry. So what is the first priority of the industry in case of a chemical disaster? See, the basic thing would be the industry has to identify the hazardous activities. That is the primary responsibility of the industry as a stakeholder. They should plan for safety audit, and they should also notify on how hazardous these chemicals are on the notice board, so that the employees know, so that the public know. So this is the first responsibility of the industry as a stakeholder. Then The maintenance of plant facilities and equipment, how they should be periodic maintenance. You may remember how, due to negligence on the part of the Union Carbide, due to the boilers not working, how there was a leak from the Union Carbide plant, which killed and maimed several thousands in the Bhopal gas tragedy. So this maintenance of plant facilities and equipment is important. Installation of vapor gas detection in case of a chemical disaster, so that the entire area is alerted. Then better HRM practices and better proactive labor. What do I mean by better proactive labor? I mean how the employees have to be proactive. Then emergency practices, emergency preparedness. So emergency preparedness would mean security drills, then to intimate the district administration of the emergency preparedness. See, in one of the previous videos, we spoke of how when we spoke of disaster management, we said the industry has to have a website and of the products they are preparing, the level of the hazardness, then they have to, and their level of emergency preparedness, all this has to be shared with the district administration, because as I said, the there is a district disaster management force that should the industry should coordinate with the district management. So this is the first stakeholder, the industry. Then what is the role of the government? See, the government should, the first primary responsibility of the government would be, like you see, you take the example of the USA, there is a chemical safety board. So chemical safety board which will promote accountability. A similar thing we could incorporate in the industries which are into manufacture of chemicals. Awareness campaign. The government has got an important role in awareness campaign by alerting the people on the products manufactured. Then R&D, research and development to minimize toxicity, involving the RLBs and the ULBs. This is the most important thing. See now, after the 73rd Amendment brought in the rural local bodies, that is the Panchayat, Gram Panchayat, Taluk Panchayat and Jilla Parishad, and similarly the urban local bodies, the town municipal council, city municipal council and the corporations. Now, democratic decentralization both in the rural and urban sector, it is institutionalized. So the RRBs and the ULBs have to be involved in the disaster management in the disaster management campaign, and they should play a proactive role. Transportation of hazardous chemicals. See, there is one website which is developed, it is called important website called Nicer Globe. So in this Nicer Globe, what happens is, from the time of the chemical leaving the factory till its destination, everything is tracked. So the government should make it compulsory for all the major industries, especially those really dealing with chemical products, to compulsorily become members of this Nicer Globe. So this will act to promote accountability. Then what is the role of the public in this? So the public are an important stakeholder. The public, they should be aware of what the industry in their area, what it is manufacturing, whether safety measures have been followed. Then when the public take part, the public should become more and more aware of the activities of the company. Then mutual aid groups. Mutual aid groups will come in case of a disaster, how the public will help the industry as well as the district administration in rescue. The rehabilitation part of it is the role of the government as well as the industry. So this particular question which we analyzed, as I told you earlier, the examiner is not interested in knowing the causes for the chemical disasters. So you may have read a lot about chemical disasters, but the question is very specific. In the question, the question says the result of a chemical disaster has effects through generations which are irreparable and unimaginable. The examiner wants to know how the stakeholders should react in such a situation. The three stakeholders being the industry, the government, and the public. So, with a brief introduction, you go straight away to the response of the stakeholders. Industry, what the industry should do. As I said, identification of hazardous activities, safety audit, periodic maintenance of equipment, installation of gas vapor detection, better HRM practices, proactive labor, then emergency preparedness. Then I said, then we came to the role of the government. We said how government should have a chemical safety board, as in the US, to enforce standards of accountability. Then awareness campaigns. Then R&D to minimize toxicity. Then I also said how the rural local bodies and urban local bodies should be actively involved in disaster management and how they should educate the public about the industries in their area and how they can play an active role in disaster management. Finally, we spoke about Nicer Globe. That is that is an important website where the transportation of hazardous chemicals, right from the time it leaves the factory till it reaches its destination, everything is tracked. So the government should see that that all the industries, the major industries which are dealing with chemicals, become members of this, so that transportation of hazardous chemical substances can be tracked easily. Finally, we spoke of the role of the public, what role the public should do, how they should be made aware. Then mutual aid groups, that is the public helping the industry and helping the government in the manner of disaster management. But again, as I told you, the role of rehabilitation will be that of the government. So this is how an answer to this particular question has to be analyzed for 200 words. Finally, as I told you, in environment, especially the dynamic part of environment, the good source of information is the goodearth.com, www.goodearth.com, in which a lot of articles are there on environment. But since the time factor comes, what we have discussed, if you are able to comprehend and put it in this pattern, it will serve the purpose and you would have covered 200 words very easily. Thank you.